up the Board of Appeal and Equalization for the City of Eden Valley, for Stearns County, Minnesota. The purpose of this meeting is to determine whether taxable property in the jurisdiction has been properly valued and classified by the assessor, and to determine whether corrections need to be made. So, that being said, I'll open it up to you guys.
Alright, so I give you guys a sales packet that let you know the sales that we had in the area last year. So last year we had 5 sales in our sales study, which our sales study runs from October 1st, 2017 through September 30th, 2018. So we had 5. Last year we had 4, so we're up 1 more sale. And how we set values in a district is we look at the county assessed value compared to what properties are selling for in the real world, and we're supposed to value at 100% of market value. So we should roughly be around 95%. So last year we were at 80% of the median ratio out there. So we've applied adjustments to, we broke it down kind of into the old section and new section of town, and oh, yeah, and the older part of town is up 3 to 8%, and the newer part of town, we had a couple of sales out there that showed we were pretty low. So overall values in the newer section of town went up 10 to 15%. That was based on a couple of sales, and then we also have another sale coming through. I noticed that we're still low on. That would be in the next sales study if it sells for what I think it will. And so that's what residential values did. As far as apartments.
Yeah, hi, I'm Randy Lar. I do the appraising on the commercial, industrial, and apartment side. Just to recap real quickly, the apartment market continues to be strong. We've seen increases across the county, probably 3 to 5% increases, I would say. For the most part, apartments seem to be doing well, along with mini storages, both of those more of the investment side of things, and both of those two things seem to be doing well in our county. As far as commercial industrial, slowed down a little bit from the year before. Our ratio on commercial, we didn't have to move a whole lot, so we were in that 1 to 3% increase, something like that. Most of them were probably closer to 1 though, so not a lot of change in the commercial industrial side of things. Yeah, I guess that's all.
Yeah, so there's not a whole lot of agricultural activity in the city, but county-wide there really hasn't been a whole lot of movement as far as agricultural values. The farming market is not strong right now, so we remain pretty flat in all of our districts. That includes the Green Acres value too. Not much movement going on. And then the sales that we have in here are just all the sales in the city. And they just basically go from the lowest valued property to the highest valued property. And I also saw similar increases. I do Kimball City down the road as well. And their property values are up this year too. And I think it's just because smaller towns are a little more affordable. You can get more bang for your buck, I guess, out here. So sort of increasing the demand for homes, and then the low interest rates. I know we're back down to 4% interest rates, so that's another thing that's increasing, putting pressure on property values not only here but throughout the township. So that's basically a recap of what we have. So the older part of town up roughly 5%. The newer areas are up roughly 10 to 15%. And one reason for the change in the newer area is we tried to equalize our land values a little bit closer to the Meeker side. So saw some land value movement out there, and I thought it was appropriate because we hadn't moved for many years. And I know Meeker, they were running about 10,000 more for a lot than we were. So I brought it much closer, so we're basically in line, maybe 1,000. I think we're at 24,000 for an improved lot now. And any questions for us or anybody here want to talk about their value?
Well, what's your definition on what's considered an old plat versus a new plat?
So I just put basically the older plats are everywhere except basically where Troy's neighborhood is out there.
Thank you.
Yeah. What, Sunny Meadows edition it looks like?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so Oriole, Willow, Elk Avenue, Meadowlark, those houses that were built less than 20 years ago. that's sort of the newer area. I mean, I could have called it something else. I just sort of wanted to break it out a little bit this year because we had been lumping everything in together, but I thought it was a little bit of a different market out there. So another way to just be a little bit more accurate on any changes that we make out there in the areas. And I did, I'm looking at sales that happened, so we're basically halfway through our sales study for values next year, and it looks like we've got 3 sales of properties that have already occurred. So the house at 459 State Street sold for $135,000. These sales aren't verified yet; they're just sort of like what's out there. And after our value changes, the value that we had on that property is $87,000. So that one sold for a lot. I don't know if there have been any changes, like recent remodels or anything like that. So we're a little low on that. 500 Stearns has a sale, sold for $140 and we're on for $120, so that's about an 86% ratio. Another one on Stearns, well, the school purchased land, so that really isn't a qualified sale. They basically purchased that house just south of the middle school on Stearns for future development. I know they're gonna get rid of the house and use it as green space and put a road through there. And then some active listings I found right on Meadowlark Lane. A 2-story house right now is pending for $190, which seems a lot. We're on for about $160, and a sale at the house at 589 Bell Street is listed, and we're pretty good on that ratio. So I guess we're just waiting to see what's coming in. The market's strong again. Last year, interest rates we're up to 5%, and it looked like sales were starting to slow down in some of my districts, but now that interest rates are low again, it seems like money is a little bit cheaper. So people are maybe willing to spend a little bit more in a house, because
Okay.
Thanks, Mitch.
See if you'd have bought an older home.
He just informed me that my lot went up a lot too. Might have to combine it.
All right.
Good explanation though, thank you.
yeah. And last year, values were up about 6% too. I looked at what we did last year, it was at 6 to 8, which sort of not much different. You guys are sort of a similar market as Kimball. I mean, you're smaller on the Stern side, but they're kind of experiencing the same thing where their values are. They're farther away from St. Cloud, but it's not like you're living in Sartell or something where you can't really get much for your dollar out here. It's a nice small community, and it's kind of driving up values.
All right.
I'm just gonna clarify, Janice, have you done the board training before or not? Or you are? Okay, I didn't see on the list here. Do you remember what year you took that?
Oh, maybe I need to retake it again.
Well, maybe that's okay. I didn't see your name on it, but sometimes they have Eden Valley out of order just because of the different counties, so maybe it's just in. Okay, I'll just verify that then, that you're listed.
And I can do that.
Okay.
Did we have any letters or anybody sign up to come in tonight? No. No? All right.
Yeah, I haven't heard phone calls from anybody out here, so we don't have anybody on the agenda right now unless somebody walks in or is present already.
Keep looking at me.
People are still in shock.
You know,
you
you're
well,
killing
Troy.
me, you know, it's hard being on this side and not that side.
No, I just have one copy, but I can make a copy of that.
That's impressive.
Oh, okay.
That would be very impressive.
Do you have to take that every 4 years or something? Well, then I bet you then I'm off. Because I think I took it the first year I was on council.
Oh, the sales bracket? You have an extra copy.
Yeah, I do have an extra one. Here you go.
I'll change
Sorry
it.
about that.
And Randy, that's right online, right?
Yeah, it's
That-
online.
Yeah, I know another concern people had out here was the city tax rate, and I have the history of the last few years of the tax rate out here, and it looks like it's been going down. In 2017, the city effective rate was 124%. Last year it was at 120%. This year it's at 116%. So the rate's going down. I know that a lot of you guys might have seen some tax increase out here, and that is largely would be attributable to the new school levy that passed out there. So, and that's just not just the city of Eden Valley, but even like the townships who are in the same school district that are picking up some of that as well. In case I know if you're looking at your tax statements, you probably saw your taxes went up.
I attributed my taxes going up, for the city just because my house value jumped pretty significantly this year.
Your home value did?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it was 10,000 or so, if I recall correctly.
Okay. Yeah, I know a large portion, even if your value hasn't changed that much, I know a lot of it has to do with the school. The school rate has gone up from 28% to 34%, so it's basically, it has something to do with value, but a lot I think is more attributable to having to pay the school debt and for the improvements that are going on, which is good that you can improve the school, but you have to pay for it. So,
All right.
It's definitely different than what was in the paper though.
what was
What the difference is, what they said what on our assessed values, and what mine are,
Oh,
big difference.
is that prior to the bond, they asked, or they told you approximation?
Yeah,
of change?
it was in the paper, and then when I got it, that's why I said I needed an AED, because by the mailbox.
Oh, sure. That's what you were.
And then Mitch didn't tell me about the little land deal.
Alright. Oh,
Thanks,
I mean,
Mitch.
if
It's
everything-
no, I get it. I mean, you explained it perfectly. I mean, it makes sense.
I think if your values are going up, basically I think if everybody's value in the city are going up, in theory, your amount of city tax shouldn't be, like if everybody goes up the same percentage and the amount of how much an organization needs for funding, everybody's taxes should go up the same amount basically, or the same percent, but there's a little bit you have to pay to the county, which the whole county pays for. So if your value goes up a little bit, you'll probably pick up a little more county value. But I think the school district is, because it's such a large number in comparison to how much tax base that they have. I think that's the biggest reason. Because I've even seen some farms, like I do Eden Lake Township, and you can see farmers are picking up. Their values basically didn't go up much at all because farming is very stagnant right now, and they're seeing a $300 increase in tax. And you can look at the tax statement and you can see the county rate hasn't really changed. So basically, the amount to the county doesn't change much. The amount to the township doesn't change much, but it's attributable to the school. So if you look at your breakdown, you can see that it was based on levies that had passed. So that's where you guys are definitely getting hit hard, and the township who's in the school district. I can pull up anybody's tax statement. I've looked around to see what it did, 'cause I'm like, oh wow, there's one up, and then I noticed, oh yeah, thanks. Eden Valley was there was 2 schools that passed referendums, and Eden Valley was one, and I think somewhere a little bit in the northern section of Stearns passed. And if Holding Ford maybe.
Yeah, I think it was Holding Ford.
So that's where your tax increase is mainly coming from, is just the school. But yeah, if your value goes up, then basically your county portion will probably go up a little bit too. But yeah, there's a lot of moving parts.
On farms, it gets applied to the house, garage, 1 acre, because they say so on farms, they break up the house, garage, 1 acre separate from the ag land, because they say the ag, or the house, garage, 1 acre is more comparable to a house in town, so they only pay the school tax on that. Certain bond levies, they only pay on the house, garage, 1 acre, so this past levy that was passed, got applied to the house, garage, 1 acre, and then I got a phone call from a farmer, he's wondering why his taxes changed. His value had gone down a little bit even, and his taxes went up about $300 because of that, the bond that got the voter approved levy. So yeah, it's gonna make a big impact.
That was the first thing I seen on mine.
Yeah.
I looked at them. Huh?
Okay.
The encouraging part though is look at the home values, what they're selling for though.
Yeah,
That's actually encouraging. I mean, if we got one potentially at that rate on Meadowlark, we haven't seen sales like that in a long time.
yeah.
So that's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if values are going up, I've had even, I looked in Kimball this year, there was, some houses that their value went up a little bit, but their taxes actually went down. I'm not saying their value went up $40,000, but it was up, you know, a couple of $1,000s, and just because the way Kimball is situated, their tax actually went down a little bit, maybe like $50 or something. Not a whole lot, but I mean, it usually correlates. Like your value's up, your taxes are up, but not always. It just depends on. Everything is so complex with all the numbers and all that. But in theory, if everybody's value goes up, the tax rate. I think it's one reason why your tax rate is going down is because values have been going up. So basically, if your spending stays the same and your tax rate goes up, your rate should decrease, right? Because if they're working, your tax base is larger and you don't spend anymore, you don't need as much of a multiplier on that. So that's one good thing. I don't.
Any other questions? You're stuck with us till 7:30, so.
Paper, rock, scissors, I
Yeah,
guess.
right.
Let's play on values.
Do you guys have any solar in the area? I can talk a little bit about how solar is treated. Do you guys have any in the city limits or not? No?
Yeah, actually, we have one house
Oh,
that has,
Oh,
has
house,
solar
okay.
on it.
Okay.
And it's in Stearns too.
Okay. Yeah, those are, if it's on the houses, they're typically considered personal property or equipment, but, you start to see a lot of the solar farms popping up, and they're not just on, they're popping up in townships. A lot of our townships have at least one solar farm now. Spring Hill is getting one, Lake Henry, they're popping up all over. It seems like what they like to locate is by, substations, especially if they've been somewhat updated, they like to locate by those. But basically the way they work, when they initially came out, I don't think there was a cap on how many megawatts they could produce. Then they capped it, I think, to 5 megawatts. And then now it sounds like they're capping at 1 megawatt. So the way the taxation of those things work, in order to get, if it's over 1 megawatt, they get the commercial classification. So obviously a higher tax rate then, right? But if it's 1 megawatt or less, they don't have to pay the commercial tax on it. Then it stays classified as it was prior to the solar farm then, okay? And then similar with the value, if the value is, you're supposed to value it by state statute as similar to surrounding land. So in other words, if it was ag land prior, it's gonna be continue to be valued as ag land. So, so it sounds like they're not paying tax back to the community, but one of the things they do pay is called a production tax. And the way that works is the state actually calculates the actual amount of tax, but based on how much energy they're producing, they pay a production tax on that. They haven't spelled out, but I just don't know the numbers off the top of my head. But so when they calculate that out, they actually kick money back to the county and to the city or township. The school doesn't get any of that, so it's 80% goes to the county, 20% goes to the township or city, and those percentages are apparently written in statutes, a state law anyway. So I'm assuming it's in statute somewhere, but. So like, for example, at Raymond Township, where they put up all those wind towers, same thing applies there, they get a production tax. So it can amount to a pretty good amount of revenue for those townships. And same thing, Getty's got some windmills, and these solar farms, the initial ones that were getting put up, that helps the tax base, you know, do the production tax that they pay. So, any questions on that? That's kind of how the nuts and bolts of those work. So again, it's 1 megawatt or less, they don't get classed commercially. 1 mega or greater than 1, then they pay a commercial tax on top of the production tax. So, I think our largest one is probably Albany or Painesville. Or both of those were one of the first 2 online, and they're both, I want to say, close to 100 acres maybe. So, yeah.
Already tell them about the training and all that?
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good.
So I guess every year you guys have to have at least one trained member on the board, and we just have a master file that shows who's training. It looks like, yeah, Pat, you're trained through 2022, Dan through 2021, Troy through 2020. So you guys have 3 trained members?
Yeah, I guess I need to train, I didn't realize that.
Oh, mine must have lapsed then.
Yeah.
I saw 400.
Dan was double. on your
Oh,
call.
he's that one there?
Yeah, City of Eden Valley.
Oh, okay.
When is
Brent-
mine up?
Yeah, yours is.
I just took it this year.
Oh, that's why, cause they have you on here twice for some
20,
reason.
yeah, so you're up in 2021 and 2022, so apparently you're on here twice.
We're going 2022 then, okay.
Yeah.
So
2022.
I wondered if they had the wrong name, did one of you guys take it in the last year?
I didn't.
Just me, take
Okay.
it, it's free.
Put my name on
You
there.
have to arm wrestle the state on this.
And one that says it's,
All I know is I'm good, so.
one says Eden Valley City, and then the other says City of Eden Valley, so maybe it's interesting that there's not a drop them, but Brent, I didn't see your name.
Yeah, you know what, mine might have lapsed. I thought I was still trained.
Okay. Yeah.
Are you trainable?
No, well, depends on who you ask.
That's good.
Do you have the website they go to?
So where do we do we go to that www.countystearns.minnesota to find it, or what?
I know, I think on the intranet, there's an intranet site, and I think there's links to that, but I don't think training opens up till July.
Oh,
If you
I
want
got
to.
time. Okay.
Yeah, cause it just closed, didn't it? Didn't they have one?
Yeah, I think it opens back up July first, right?
Yeah, but they had one after the newly elected, I think, right?
Correct, yep. Is that
I
out?
just took mine in
Good job.
November or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cindy, can you remind me in
Closed it for a
July?
few months, yep.
Yeah,
Doesn't take very long.
No,
What's that?
it's like 4 hours.
no, it
I
isn't.
took
So
mine
mind-boggling.
last year.
No, it isn't.
January.
Cindy, do you get those extranet websites, their emails and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I think it took a half hour, 40 minutes. In between the kids yelling.
All right, well, got about 7 minutes left to go. Anybody got anything else? Jan, I hear you're up for karaoke
He's
next.
posting, they already have it.
Okay, what do you wanna sing?
Lady Gaga. Let her rip.
I know, we've been trying to get our cities, basically, what we're striving to do is trying to break down all our cities and townships into, every 5 years review properties, so we're trying to break it down into like, do one whole section, 20%, and another one, instead of, we're kind of doing our reviews sporadically, they're all throughout the city, because we used to verify homesteads, so that's why, we don't view every single house on a street. But that's what I'm gonna try to be doing this summer when I'm out here is, I've broken the city down into 5 sections basically, and so I'm gonna just be going, trying to do every house in a neighborhood, just cause that seems like it would make our assessment more equalized, cause you can see exactly what we have, on one house versus the next house versus the next house. So this year, I'm actually gonna be, I'll start working on, in Sunny Meadows edition.
I was gonna say, you could skip the new plats.
Yeah,
I think
so,
we think we knocked that one out of the
so,
park.
so,
Pretty safe to say.
yeah, so my plan, yeah, I'm just gonna go around and start there and then, work west, and then every year I'll basically be doing 20%, so I'll do that the whole stretch there, and then, every 5 years review property, so there are gonna be some, other areas of town that I need to view, but we're trying to get on a schedule where we can just do like one street, cause it goes a lot faster. You can get a lot more houses done if you just go door to door to door, rather than, this one, and then walk down 5 houses and do the next one, but, so that's what I'll be doing, I'll, be out here again this summer, and, if you see me,
What do you drive? When do you plan on doing this?
have you heard of
I'm just
Escalade?
asking, I'm not saying anything. I just wanna make sure things are legit.
Right,
Kill the grass, take the deck off.
yeah, you put up a.
Start your
I
basement.
didn't play anything up,
You
don't
got
start.
that shed?
No, I didn't put nothing up, don't start. I planted 4 trees and I could see it.
That's what your mistake was. You put 4 trees in.
I cut them down, I'm gonna. Home improvement. Come down to my house December 31st, I'm gonna gut the whole basement.
That's the way to do it, I guess.
Learn from the best. Just give me
All right.
But no, it's, yeah, I don't like to see a lot of value increase. It's nice when we have steady growth, like 3 to 5%, but, in some of my districts, I've seen, 20% increase in value in some of my neighborhoods, which isn't good, cause, I don't get paid anymore to increase somebody's value 20% or $50,000. It's just, basically, the state statute says that there's an amount of sales in an area, we have to adjust our values, so it sort of can be like growing pains in a district where it's nice to have your value go up, but, you know, it makes it more desirable it's a desirable place to live, but, yeah. So you're not alone in seeing increases in these towns, and
Do you wanna talk about time adjustment or not, or?
you're an expert.
Okay.
Yeah,
You can talk about it. So, for many years, the assessors have been using time adjustments, but about 5 years ago, they changed the way it was done. Actually, it was more than that. It was back when the market was collapsing. That's right. It was around 2010, probably. So what they used to do is calculate the time adjustment back to the previous January 2nd instead of going forward. So when the market's going down, assessed values tended to be too high, because when the property sold and the time adjusted, we were going backwards, so we were still keeping values flat when they should have been going down. So the Department of Revenue said, you know, wait a minute, let's flip this around and let's stay more current with the market. Let's adjust them forward to January 2nd, you know, just beyond our sales period. Remember, our sales period ended September 30th of 2018. Let's adjust it forward to January 2nd of 2019. Okay, because our assessment is reflective of January 2nd, 2019, right? So they switched that over to, you know, to be more up to date on the values. Well, now when you have values going the other way and our time adjustment is going forward again, you can start to see things go the other way, where we're right on sale prices versus before it looked like we were behind. So just one thing to keep in the back of your mind when you hear people say, well, no, but the assessed value is supposed to be less than what I can sell for. There was that. A lot of people thought that just due to the way the time trend used to be done years ago, and now that it's going forward, we're much more close to market value with our assessment. So what they do is they look at 21 months worth of sales, and they figure out what the market's changed in that 21 month period using regression analysis. If you've heard that term before, it's a statistical way that they can track how much numbers are changing over a specific period of time. So from September 30th of 2018, they go all the way back to January 1st of 2017. So it's 21 months of sales, and they figure out how much the market has changed during that time period, and then they determine what's called the time adjustment then. So when they look at our sales, each one of them gets time adjusted based on what the indicators were, okay? So what I was trying to get to here, and it took a long way to get here, but the market in this area had time adjustment was about 5%. For this assessment in this area, so it kind of ties in with where Mitch's values were this year too. So kind of reaffirms what we're seeing with our sales. It seems to match up, and we did notice that in a lot of our districts that the time adjustment calculation, it seems pretty accurate, because the sales that we had in that district, it indicated we needed about such and such percentage, and the time adjustment seemed to match it. So they do a study, the western part of the Stearns, they do a study on the eastern part of the Stearns, they also do a study on Lakeshore, on both parts of the county as well. So, and then they tell us what that percentage is, and that's how we have to adjust our sales then. So, yeah, so it's basically just their way of indicating how much the market's changed during a time period. So, if that made any sense or not, but that's.
I'd rather get back in a DeLorean at 88 mile an hour, go that way a little bit. Now, here's a question for you, if I remember this right. So in January, I think it was the Stearns County Municipal League meeting, correct, that we had at the fire hall? What was it?
The Stearns County.
The Stearns,
Yeah.
yeah. And they came out and he had all kinds of data on stuff. And he was saying, if I remember right, and I got it at home, I'm sure, that we were at 77.4 or 77.8% of the value where, like how you got your taxable market value. He was saying we were we should be way lower than that. How he came up with his numbers. If I remember it, because I think I even talked to him about it. I can't remember his name offhand. I should have brought that.
That was
The county assessor.
Yeah, because it was at that 77 point, because he said we didn't have 6 good sales in X amount of time.
Okay.
And so it would trigger them to come back and look at it. And we were at like 77.8, I think it was. So he said, actually, you should be going the other way. But we didn't have enough good sales to prove it. We had 4 and not 6.
I have no idea what that would be.
I'll look at it. I got your
So,
number.
all right, yeah, all right, I'm gonna have to close it out here, though.
Oh,
So, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing for Stearns County.
Freedom ratio for the newer price, but I don't know.
Give Meeker a couple of minutes here to get, set up. Yeah,
I think we might be ready.
all right.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Do you wanna move the microphone back to them, or you guys wanna move up
Yeah.
here, or?
Yeah, we can move
I
up
can,
there.
I'll get out of
Okay.
here.
I do vaguely remember.
I remember what you're talking about too, but I can't remember the guy's name.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I-
I know
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But I mean, does that make sense? Because what we did, I said, the numbers aren't jiving with that.
All right.
It was just weird.
Isn't he from the auditor's office?
Yeah, I can't remember his name. I should have brought it to
Was it the auditor or the assessor?
No, he's the auditor.
Auditor? County auditor?
Yeah. I
He's the
think-
county auditor.
Yeah.
Makes more sense. Yeah. County auditor maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, you might
look at that.
wanna show
Yeah, show,
Mitch.
show these guys,
Yeah, see?
all typed in for us, we don't have to write it in. Okay, that's the one point you get.
I still love you, Mitch.
Normally we're about negative.
And you
10
too,
by the
Randy.
time we're done.
Nothing but love.
If we can't give you guys a hard time, then, you know, what am I doing here?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, this print is even smaller than this one.
I can almost read this one.
Stearns County's numbers were bigger though.
No, we're good. This reminds me of the old,
Seats are warmed up for you.
zoning board commissioner report.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and open up the Board of Appeal and Equalization for the City of Eden Valley, Meeker County, Minnesota. Again, purpose of this meeting is to determine whether taxable property in the jurisdiction has been properly valued and classified by the assessor, and to determine whether corrections will need to be made. All right,
So, all right, guys, well, we're gonna try to talk about as much stuff as we can, although I think Randy and Mitch covered most of it, but, so on our side of the city, if you look on the first page, we only had 2 commercial sales, that were in our sales study, and you can see our ratio is quite substantially low. So the plan is, and this kind of goes for all of Meeker County, to go through all of our commercial, because we're seeing that throughout the county, is that they're not being valued correctly. So basically what it comes down to is that we're gonna probably end up having to revisit all the commercial properties, especially in Eden Valley, because even the sales previously to this year, we've been substantially low. So we wanna get that ratio closer to 100, and some of these, I'm not sure if we've ever been in, because, like that one that sold for 1.1 million. I mean, we only have it at 381, so there's something we're missing there. Now, that could have been an issue with, they could have added machinery in there that they didn't let us know about, so that could be an issue too. Or any kind of equipment or something like that, because that tends to skew the sales price. And normally if they have that in there, we need to subtract that off of the sales price. So then the building will actually be somewhat closer, but we'll have to see, moving forward on that one, to see how, really what's out there, so. And
You-
then,
do you know what the address is on that one?
that's that, it's that big building out on.
That's BI?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can't remember, yeah, that's the one.
Wow.
Somebody bought it? Yeah, 1.1
I don't know, I'm
million.
wondering if that got transferred though. 'Cause that shows that you got a sale date of last March,
Yep,
and I know that they were, I know that building's actually up for sale right now,
oh, is it?
yeah.
Okay. So I wondered, yeah, there's more to this, there's 31 reject reasons that the state has to reject a sale so it doesn't get into our sales study and skew the numbers. But at the time, there was no reason to take that one out. So I wonder if there's not more to it, you know, that could have skewed that sales price one way or the other.
Mm.
And normally, when you see that in commercial, it includes equipment, you know, or, you know, merchandise to be sold later, if it's a similar company. So there's something, you know, we'll look into that before we start raising that property up to $1 million, and, you know, 1.1 million. So we'll see what that, you know, comes to. So,
Dude, that was about the time that guy died. Guy Schinicker died.
Yeah, that might have been, that
Yeah.
might have just been a transfer from one
I
family
think
member
it's
to
a
another.
transfer.
oh, okay. Well, yeah, we'll definitely look into that.
There was a death in that family.
Okay. So there definitely could be something more to that
Yeah.
one than what meets the eye, so. Not that we base all commercial on 2 sales anyway, but, you know, kind of going through commercial throughout the county, there's a lot of commercial buildings that are being valued, to be honest with you, like a pole building, where it's just sheet metal on wood, and 90% of the commercial buildings out there aren't that. So we really need to tighten that up and try to get them to what they're actually are and what they're being used for, because that's a big key in commercial properties. Is really,
That's where I got hit, right?
exactly. Exactly, yeah, Dan, you would know better than anyone,
Yep.
so,
I know where you're coming from.
yeah. So the second page you got there, these are the residential sales that we used in our sales study here. And our median ratio was right around 100%. So we didn't do a lot to commercial this year, or excuse me, in the residential. We went down 5% on buildings that were in the original City of Eden Valley plat. So basically, the older part of town is what got a -5 adjustment. We've went up quite a bit in the past, so our sales are starting to tighten up a little bit now. So, I mean, we'll see what the next year brings. I'm not sure have you seen much for sales, that if we're up or down? Lately?
It's,
Nothing?
no, nothing
Okay.
that really stands out, I guess.
Yeah, so we're looking actually pretty good, so that's good, because there was a lot of movement the last few years. So, hopefully, you know, we'll start to plane out here and we'll be close to that 1%, or now that we've got things a little bit more tighter, that we can actually start looking at individual neighborhoods a lot more. You know, if we can get some sales in a certain neighborhood, then maybe we can adjust that neighborhood rather than, excuse me, adjusting the whole side. You know, where we can start picking out different areas, and that'll work, you know, a lot better, and that'll keep us in that range that we need to be, so. And I apologize, guys, that I haven't introduced, this is Missy Voigt. She's gonna be the new appraiser for Eden Valley on our side, so you'll see her walking around now, so.
I'm not gonna tell you what I got.
Doesn't matter, you're on Baker.
Yeah,
Let me know, I'm on
The other
meter.
way, that-
Just gotta worry about Jan and Ernie,
Yeah.
those are the only 2, huh?
Yep,
Yeah,
at least here anyway.
Right, sure. So, and then the last page, that's just, all our sales. That's the rejects and the good sales, so there was 22 total. So, but we did have 10 good sales, which is actually a really good sales study for us. We usually are in that range for residential. Did you guys have any questions about any of those, or? Since most of you live in Stearns, I suppose it doesn't quite matter as much, right?
You know, I get hit from both sides.
Yeah.
I live in Stearns and business in Meeker.
Meeker, yeah.
What have you seen for increase in your lots, your bare lots,
That's,
with infrastructure?
sure. We haven't had an increase. A couple of years ago, we changed them and we did increase them. They were around 12,000 and we brought them up between 21 and 25, depending on the size. So that's, when Mitch was explaining that to you, I talked to Mitch about that.
Yeah.
And we had talked about, you know, where we were at. And we really only have those bare lots down on the south side, I believe it's Jack's Addiction, they call it. And those, you know, those have been at that price. We've had a few that have sold around that 20, you know, between 21 and 24, and that's been a few years ago. So that's kind of what he was basing his off too, because unfortunately he doesn't get a lot of those sales. Well, neither of us do when it comes to that really, but, so it brings them up a little tighter so that actually, you know, if someone does ask, we can say, you know, we're similar to the ones on the north end too, so. But the ones we did have for sale were right in that range. So,
That was one of the questions I had for him. It went up 10,000,
yeah,
but you haven't, one hasn't sold for
right.
how many years, but, you know, there's a formula to it.
Yeah, you know, the big thing is trying to get equalization, even though we're from two different counties and we have different, you know, there's different budgets and there's different, you know, all that other things. You know, we try to be relatively close in similar properties. You know, granted, you know, be honest, where you live in, that area's a little bit higher than most of our areas, except for down in that Jack's Addition, there's, you know, a few higher houses. And that one side up there, you know, there's where the most expensive houses are. So, you know, we wanna be somewhat similar, but within reason, you know, cause of course we get different sales, so we have to use the sales that are given to us. They tend to not get as many sales as we do, so on our end, it's kinda nice cause we have more data to work with. So, you know, we'll see what happens this year. You know, the rest of the cities in the county are moving up quite fast. So I don't know if, if it's one of those things where Watkins and Eden Valley started to grow a couple years ago, because that's when we saw both of those cities go up in value. And now they're planing out a little bit, and now the rest of the cities are catching up. I'm not sure if that's really what's going on, but it does appear to be that way. Because some of the other cities now, like Darwin, Cosmos, they're all on the rise. Their values are going up, and quite a bit, between 10 and 15% almost every year. So we're, you know, those smaller cities, it seems like it's moving south. So, and the sales that we really see a big increase now is not necessarily in a city, but it's those 1, 2, 3, 5 acre houses that are out in the townships. Those are going up astronomically. We have a couple townships that are going up 30%. It's for whatever reason, people are buying those properties and they're paying a lot to get them. So hopefully for those guys' sake in those townships, it starts to plane out a little bit. But it's the ones closer, you know, they're in between Litchfield and Hutchinson. So those are the ones we're seeing where they're, you know, going up quite a bit. But, you know, other than that, really, I mean, ag has been pretty basic for the last few years. It hasn't really changed a whole lot. The southern part of the county has changed because they're no longer at 10,000 an acre anymore. They've dropped down to about 74. So that's still the highest, you know, in the county. Is still down in that Cedar Mills, Cosmos area. But you know, we're actually in the process of redoing all our ag land, and you're going to see a lot of the lake values are going to change. Lake land, commercial land is going to change. So we're kind of in a process where we're looking at the whole county as a whole, and we're going to start adjusting land a little bit better. Our ag land is going to change to CPI. Most of the counties around us already use CPI, so it'll be a good transition, because then our border counties will be relatively the same, and we don't have a different rating on our land compared to what they have.
What's CPI?
It's a crop productivity index.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think all the counties around us, as a matter of fact, use it. So, we'll see. You know, that's the plan for this year. So you might hear through the grapevine that, you know, next year that ag land changed, or, you know, lake properties have changed. Because those two will probably be the ones that change the most, depending on how the commercial goes once we get that all done. Because there's one thing of changing how things should be, but then you gotta always take in consideration the sales that are out there too. So if we change buildings that, you know, should be this and not this, you gotta look at, okay, now how does that ratio work with the sales? Now do we need to change that square foot amount, you know, to match up better? So it's a process, but it's a good one, and it definitely needs to be done because it hasn't been done in a long time. So. No, other than that, Randy stole all the good stuff, so I gotta.
He was nervous. I was quizzing him quite a bit.
I can tell you about on our end, on the trained member, we've got Janice and Brent, and you guys expire on July 1st of this year.
Oh, so I
Oh,
was
so we
trained.
are.
I
Yeah.
was trained.
Yeah, I don't know why we don't get them all.
They don't all show up on Meeker, cause that was as of like February 4th,
Yeah. so-
and then they close it down, and you had to been trained before February 1st, so I wonder if we have to look under Stearns and Meeker to get all of you
Right, yeah,
who are
that's-
trained.
I would assume that, because we only got 2, so I'm gonna give you guys this, you guys.
Cause I marked on there that
only
I
got
wasn't
one,
trained.
But this one has the website on it, and you
Okay.
can't get on there until July 1st.
Okay.
Because they close it down for all the local board meetings and for all the county board meetings. After that, you guys can get back on there.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
So Mitch was telling me a fib again.
So now we can't trust these assessments.
I know, right? Oh, man, we're gonna have to sell and move to
We're gonna have to
Meeker
find out
County
who
where,
it is now,
where
for
the
sure.
assessors are a little more trustworthy.
Well, now there's 2 points for us, even moving up. Well, really, honestly, guys, that's really all I have. There wasn't a lot of movement in town here, so there's, not a lot to say.
Well, I know I should have brought my tax statement with, but I know my taxes went up $400. You know, the price of the value of my house went up, and some of it was school, but it's like, that's quite a chunk,
So your value went up?
yeah.
Okay, because I wonder if, the only reason that would have happened is if the assessor was out at your place, it changed something. Because like I said, we went down -5. Do you live in the original plat of Eden Valley? Or do you live out?
No, I'm just right up here on Rails Avenue, so it's 2
okay.
blocks south
Okay,
of 55.
that's interesting. I wonder if,
I think the value of the house went up 20,000,
really?
or whatever is on the property.
Well, that's a little interesting. Well, yeah. Yeah, 'cause that
No,
was
mine
on the-
wasn't.
that was on the buildings.
Pardon?
Is it close to, is your value close to what you paid for it?
No, it still isn't there, no,
Way less.
yeah.
So there you go. Needs to go up.
There you go.
Get her up in
Yeah.
the new plat territory.
Yeah, have to make a note of that one.
Thanks, man. Make Green Valley great again. We should check that.
But it
right
was
now.
it's a chunk of change, you know, and I know there's a few other houses, over in this area, on the other side on the east side of Jack's too, that their property values must have went up, because one said that they're probably gonna have to sell the house because they can't afford taxes, because it's
Yeah.
a single person.
Yeah, that's, I mean, we all know that, taxes are hard, and you guys know better than anyone that the tax rate in Eden Valley is extremely high. And that happens to small towns, just for the simple fact there's not commercial to eat, there's not a ton of commercial that eats up all
Right.
that budget money. And unfortunately, residential gets hit pretty hard with that stuff. And it happens to every small town in Minnesota. It's not just, it's not just this county or Stearns County, so, that's, yeah,
I was expecting it to go up
Yeah.
because of the value was listed so low,
sure.
so, but it was just a shocker,
Right, yeah,
like with
It's-
Troy,
I got
it's
hit
like,
twice hard.
yeah,
Ooh.
it always tends to be, cause you expect it to go up, but when you look at it, you don't know what you expect until you see it.
Right,
Kind of like,
right.
where, okay, I can see it going up, but then when you see that number, you're like, oh.
yeah, because the school only went up the $40 or $50, like the paper said for me, I don't know what it said for Troy, but,
Oh, sure.
Not even close.
Yeah, I wonder, I was listening to when you brought that paper up,
I must have gold toilets or something, I don't know.
because I never seen, who even publishes, do you know who publishes that?
It's the school.
Oh, it's a school itself?
Right, that's the one.
Yeah, it was.
Because I
Oh.
kept it and I thought, I'll squeeze this
Sure.
about as far as I could throw it. And then when mine came, I compared the two, and it's
It
like,
wasn't even close.
no, I brought it to somebody that knew a little bit more about it than I did, and they're like, what? And I said, exactly. That's why when I seen Randy sitting there first.
Yeah, to get that. Yeah.
And then
I
he
didn't
said,
even know that
well,
they
we looked at
published that.
Meeker, oh,
Because-
bought the lots.
Because I know some people have said, you know, they've got, you know, they get their proposed tax in November, you know, and then there was a little bit of a difference there, but I didn't realize that they were actually kind of saying that here's the amount that you can expect to see. I don't know if I was them, I would have
I know
done
my,
that.
on the one lot, the proposed went up 10,000, my house went up 18.2.
Oh,
I could almost buy another house for what my taxes went up. It's getting to the point where it's like, well, really? You said I could sell it for that? I'm gonna put you to the test, prove it. But I might not, I mean, if that one on Meadowlark went.
I was just gonna say that one, yeah,
Hey,
it depends
you
what
beat
it
me
sells
to it.
for. Yeah, depends what it ends up finally selling for. Cause I mean, in pretty much anywhere in the county, or at least in our county, they're putting, I mean, I see them all the time when they're double their value. They don't always end up that far, you know, when they finally do sell, but they're starting out ridiculous.
Cause that Randy, I mean, he knew, I did all the comparables. Typically, they'd start off at that price, and then they would end up selling at that 135, 140.
Sure.
You know, and that was 4 or 5 years ago,
Yeah.
because a lot of them were foreclosure, or,
Oh,
you know, they weren't good sales.
Right.
So then it kind of threw off the base.
Yeah.
But, yeah, when he told me that, it's like, ooh, wow.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see if that one sells or if anything else comes available, see what happens with that. Cause you know, when, you know, the problem is that when they don't have enough sales, they don't have that 6 sales, and they don't do anything, if the state can always come in and go, well, you need to do something. And I can guarantee if the state comes in and does it, it's gonna be worse than if, you know, Stearns or Meeker did anything. Cause they'll get you right up to that 100, if not more, you know what I mean? So, that's what we're always trying to avoid, you know, like, you know, it's not like we love putting, you know, plus 20% on people's homes. But if we don't do it, the state will come in and do it anyway. And then that looks bad for everybody involved. So it's worse for the taxpayers, it looks bad on us. And so we try to avoid that at all costs. And kind of like they said, we like to be, you know, 100% is actually a little high. You know, normally we want to be in that 95 range, because that way if anything does come down for the state, we don't go over 100 or we don't go under 90. So that's kind of what we look for, or at least shoot for that, is that range. So we'll see what happens this year, as far as sales go, once we get them all calculated. And Randy did steal my time trend thing too. I was gonna go over that. That's a good 10 minutes there. So.
You guys talked before, that was a problem.
I know.
Don't ever let Randy do that.
As soon as he started talking about it, I'm like,
Throw a chair.
no, that's no, it's not a new thing, but it's becoming more prevalent, and we're starting to see pretty much a time trend on everything now. And lately it's all been, I think ours was 6%. So, you know, I want to say between 5.4 and 6.6, depending on where you were at. That's what our time trend was. So it's relatively the same as theirs.
How were we similar to Watkins?
Yep. They kind of classify them together when they do time trends like that, because they kind of go, they'll look at there was no time trend in ag, but they'll look at lakes, and that's where we end up disagreeing with the state, because in Meeker County, you can't compare Lake Washington to Mud Lake. It's just, you know, you can't do that. So, so we end up trying to get the lakes split up more, where we have, you know, 4 or 5 major lakes, and then the other lakes get combined kind of in there. But they do some of the small cities together. Eden Valley, Watkins Grove City all had the same one. Cosmos City had the same one also. So some of the smaller cities. Litchfield gets their own, Dassel usually gets their own. So it just kind of depends on what all out there for sales and kind of what that 21 month is showing. So it's kind of a different, it's really different, especially for assessors to explain, because for the last how many years we've always explained we can't look ahead, we gotta look, you know, we gotta look behind during that sales period of time. And the problem is now the state is actually looking ahead for us. So what it really does is it adds to the sales price of what it is. So if you, you know, if the property was sold for 100 and we have it valued at 100, and there's a 6% change, we'd actually be, instead of 100%, we'd be low, because it adds to the sales price. So that's where it comes into play, where if you have a bad ratio, it even gets worse. So, you know, we'll see.
All right, well, anybody have anything else for Meeker? All right. Well,
Are we close?
we're close. I think we're close enough. Unless there was any letters or anything, no? Okay.
Actually, yeah, Missy was saying we didn't
We
get
didn't
one
have
phone
one
call.
call, not one.
So that's a
Okay.
surprise.
Hey,
But you gotta turn it on, you gotta turn the ringer on.
It's on. Very loud.
all right, well, thanks, guys.
All right,
Thanks
thanks,
for coming in.
Just because I have
All
two
right, then
garages.
I'm going to go ahead and officially close the public hearing for board of equalization and that stuff for the city of Meeker. And we'll go into a short recess before council. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and call tonight's council meeting to order. It is April 3rd, 2019. It is at 8 o'clock. Take a look at tonight's agenda. Anybody have any comments, questions? If not hearing nothing, I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
Dan with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. On to tonight's consent agenda. Anybody have any questions on that?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Have Pat with the motion to approve,
I second that.
Jan with the second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, on to audit report. Caroline from Bergen KDB.
Remote, you grab that remote right in front of Scott, there you go. There's a, yeah.
Yep, go for it.
Do you want this coming?
It looks like there was one.
Either one. Hold it.
All right. No, I don't want to roll that off. It would make a lot of noise. All right, good evening. My name's Caroline Stutzman. I'm the manager involved in the audit for your city. So I'd like to take a few minutes of your time and go through the results of that audit for 2018. All right. If I can get this thing going.
It's down, it says down.
This one?
No.
What am I pushing? Oh, no, got it. No, I went too far. Good job. All right. Okay. The main reason you ask us to work with you is to provide an opinion on your financial statements. That opinion is housed within the independent auditor's report. Also within the independent auditor's report, both management as well as our responsibilities are outlined. Management's responsibility is for the preparation of the financial statements. And then our responsibility is to provide that opinion. What that's getting at is there really is a line drawn in the sand as far as we can't audit our own information. The numbers need to be determined by management, and then we then audit them. The opinion we are providing is what's called an unmodified opinion. This is not a change from what you would have received in the past. For the whole city, the city as a whole, those statements are reported on the regulatory basis of accounting, which is in accordance with the Office of the State Auditor, and we're giving an unmodified opinion in accordance with that regulatory basis. And then for your water, sewer, and all of your enterprise funds, essentially, you are getting an unmodified opinion on the accrual basis, which is what's in accordance with GAAP. That's the full presentation. Again, not a change from what you would have received in the past, and what that means is we do believe those statements are fairly stated in all material respects as of December 31st, 2018. In addition to just looking at the numbers as we conduct our audit, we also consider internal controls as we go throughout that process. The items that you see listed there, the lack of segregation of accounting duties and some audit adjustments are a couple of the items that we have in relation to those internal controls. They're items you would have seen in prior audits as well, just inherently present with the amount of staff that you have, as well as some of the adjustments needed to get to those accrual statements that I mentioned earlier. And then one final piece of the audit is in relation to legal compliance. The Office of the State Auditor puts together 7 checklists full of lots of state statutes that we ask a number of questions about. We did not have any findings in relation to any of that. Okay, so now that all that's out of the way, we can dig into the numbers. We start with the general fund. This is more high-level operations, total receipts, total disbursements, and then where the cash fund balance ended for the year. So total receipts just shy of that 1 million mark. We noted that when we talked earlier, so close to that. And then disbursements are 878,000, and the ending cash fund balance for the general fund did increase for the year by about 93,000 and ended at about 846,000 for the year. That ending cash fund balance represents 11 and a half months of disbursements based on the 2018 spending levels. Your fund balance policy indicates that you would strive to have a minimum of 6 months, so you are right. You definitely are in compliance with the policy you've established for yourselves. There we go. So this chart just digs a bit deeper into the total receipts that we touched on earlier. In total, receipts increased by 0.7%, so pretty stable year compared to 2017. But if we dig into the components that are listed there, there's a little bit of fluctuation that happened between those components. Taxes and assessments did increase, with an increase in collections of some delinquent balances that were out there. And then intergovernmental revenues increased. There was an increase in local government aid for the city for the year. And then offsetting that slightly is the decrease in the other revenues. That's licenses, permits, fines, investment income, things of that nature. Court fines were down a bit in 2018 compared to 2017. A similar chart here for your general fund disbursements. In total, disbursements increased 3.8%. A couple of the categories kind of contributed to the changes, but they kind of offset each other. General government did increase a bit with repairs and maintenance for replacing the city hall carpeting, as well as some additional payroll costs with the changeover in your clerk treasurer position. So just a kind of a one-time thing for that. And then streets and highways decreased with the mild winter and some fewer purchases for equipment. Obviously, we'll see that probably flip the other way because this winter was not nearly as mild when we look at next year. This next chart looks at your general fund in total and gives a comparison from the budget to actual results. So the first column is the approved budget. If you go all the way down, the approved budget called for a pretty break-even year in fund balance, a slight increase, and then the actual results are in that middle column with the variance in the third column. So we did touch on the fact that fund balance increased about 93,000. That's all the way at the bottom there in that middle column. If we go all the way, kind of a third of the way up to total receipts, you see that actual total receipts were over budget by 0.8%, so pretty close when we're looking at things in total. A couple of the categories do have a couple variances there. The taxes and assessments you see are over budget. That had to do with not budgeting for the collection of those delinquent taxes that I mentioned earlier, because you just don't always know when those are going to come in. And then the other income was under budget. There were fewer donations received than anticipated. And if you follow down just a bit to the total disbursements, and follow that all the way over to this side, total disbursements were under budget about 8%. Public safety was under budget, just budgeting conservatively there. And then public works was under budget again with the mild winter helping things out there. The last few charts that we have look at those enterprise funds, and we start with the water fund on this next one here. Operating revenues did decrease slightly, about 1.5%. There was just decreased usage by residents. And then operating expenses increased about 19%. There was some excavating and roof repair that was needed, so some additional repair and maintenance disbursements this year. The combined impact of that was operating income for the year of $55,000. That is the orange bar there. lots of times we include, you see an orange bar and a red bar, both say operating income, and one is without depreciation. We like to include both of those as just kind of a discussion point. There are times that we see one of those bars dip below the line, and so that charges for services aren't always covering depreciation, and that's a good planning tool to help set dollars aside for future replacement of those costs. You are above the line for both, so you are fully covering depreciation with the charges for services that you have. One thing of note is that in the activity that you see here, your debt activity is not presented here. That falls below the operating income line. So while we see the operating income, the actual debt payments then happen after that. So as a result, cash balance actually did decrease by right around 10,000. So that just of note that happens below the operating income line. There we go. All right, similar chart here for your sewer fund. Operating revenue increased here about 4%. There was an increase in rates. And then operating expenses were down about 8.6%. There were some pump and lift station repairs in 2017, not present in 2018. So as a result, operating income there of just over zero, 1,666, but again, seeing it above the line, so again, indicating those charges for services are fully covering the depreciation to help set those dollars aside for future replacement of those costs. Again, debt payments are not reflected in this activity. They would happen below that. The exciting part, I think, is that cash increased in this fund by 27,000, even with those debt payments that happen after that. So nice activity for the year. And then our final chart is on Brookview Apartments. We do see a decline here in the revenues. There was a higher vacancy rate during 2018. And then expenses were down as well. There were more repairs that happened in 2017. As a result, the operating income was down just a bit, about 18,000. Of note, the cash in this fund did decrease by about 5,800, but ended the year at about 30,000. So still at a reasonable balance at the end of the year, but kind of that trend of dipping down just a bit each year. Well, that was what I had prepared to go through with you, but I'd be happy to go through any questions you might have for me.
All right, and anybody got any questions?
I don't.
I don't know, it seems like just kind of standard from year to year.
Yeah, it is. I mean, things are, in great shape when we come out and throughout the year as well. So it makes this not a lot of excitement or changing activity to talk about,
Sure.
more just the yearly activity, so.
Okay. All right. Nope.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, have a good night.
Appreciate it, you too.
All right. Okay, on to boards and commission reports. Planning Commission, so that'd be Mr. Hondel, Fredericks Park site permit. Thank you.
So we just had a special meeting to go over that building, splash pad and playground for Fredericks Park. We voted to pass it and we recommend you do as well.
Anybody have any concerns? Give everybody a moment to take a look at it quick. was just looking at the next item on here, Darren, there's a deck permit too?
I
Nope.
did
Nope.
not have a
Okay.
chance to look at that one yet, so.
Okay,
I make a motion to approve the site permit, Fredericks Park.
all right, I have a motion to approve the permit. I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Yeah, that deck permit that was on there, I just received that on Thursday, so I didn't have a chance to look at it before the
Okay.
meeting, so. And then rental, I don't have much for you. I had a couple inspections that were scheduled for last month, and I decided to push them out to April and kind of join more of them together in one shot, so I had more of them at one time, so this month I'll be pretty busy, and I'll have a report for you next month.
okay. All right, but as far as like the rentals and that stuff, everything's going well?
Yep, everything's, well, no big issues so far on anything else, so.
Okay, all right. Anybody have any questions for Darren? No? All right,
All right,
well,
thank you.
thank you. Okay, on to parks. Nope, nothing for parks tonight? Okay. All right, on to public forum, nobody in the gallery. On to department reports. Well, looks like we got fire. Chad, oh, why did I put my cheaters on? I can't see you then. How you doing, Chad?
Good, yourself?
Good.
What do you wanna know? She invited me.
Yeah, so, do you,
Cindy.
are you looking for any hires here soon?
Yes, we have 3 applicants, that we would like to put on. Dylan Blonigan, Zach Blonigan, and Thomas Schmidt.
Okay. All right,
Current roster now has 24. A full roster is 27, so we'd have 27 if we put them 3 on, but there's 2 more retiring this year, so we'd be back down to 25 again.
okay. And then they'll be starting training right away?
It'd be a year probation, but they'll start their training probably this coming November or December, somewhere in there. They usually start the classes for during the winter months.
Okay. All right. It's been a while since I've actually we've done this part of it, so do we need to do anything more on that, or we could just approve it? Just approve it? All right. All right. Anybody have any?
Yeah, background checks, yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're still waiting on the background checks and that? Okay.
Physicals and everything, right? Yeah, go through a physical.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who does the background checks?
Tuck.
Okay.
We got it. This Dr. Cindy, she's got that information.
Okay.
All right. Well, anybody have anything on that? All right. Then I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve on contingency of their background check and physicals for the 3 new hires for the Eden Valley Fire Department.
Second.
Pat with second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. And yeah, that's about it. Unless you got something you want to bring up?
The SOPs, we're working on them
Okay.
right now. And then, people, or I should say the members, think that we should get rid of that, second pumper, the one we kept when we bought the new one. Just because it never gets used, and it's a good truck to be sitting there rusting away. I'm for it, but the old chief said that we better talk to the city council first on that one. Cause you guys were the ones that said we should keep it the last time, apparently. When we got the new truck.
Okay.
There's a benefit to it for the ISO rating for the city, nothing for out of the city. Jim, you might know more on the SOP, or the ISO stuff, that we did go down like a point or something like that, I think within the city.
To qualify to be really up and up with ISO, this city needs 3 pumpers. They also acknowledge you can't afford 3 pumpers. My feelings, which I've talked to Chad and others, stick back in this truck, insurance, and keep it viable to working, get rid of it.
And really, right now, the fire department doesn't have manpower
No.
to
we
man
could-
two pumpers.
No.
So it doesn't pay for us, the city, to,
The cities
keep that
jump
second-
on board so fast with getting neighbors coming that
Yeah.
Right.
it's not worth it.
Getting another pumper from another
Like
surrounding
mutual
town.
aid, they're
Mutual
so
aid would
fast
be,
that,
okay.
you know,
And then, can somebody explain to me what the ISO rating means for,
it's insurance, something with insurance, help.
Insurance companies put that together on what each city has for fire equipment, manpower, and time. All the times, as calls come in, what it takes to get out.
I think part of that's water flow and everything, correct?
Yeah,
Right.
a lot of it's water flow, because we gotta go through the city part of it with ISO, with the fire department when this happens. And it's ongoing, it used to be every 10, 15 years now, it's an ongoing thing. I don't know where it's at right now.
Yeah, we did it, 3 years ago probably?
Yeah.
We haven't heard back
It's all the equipment you have, and they grade points on it.
yeah, and their training, they grade you on that, how much
Okay.
training you do, what you have for equipment,
Full fire,
what the water flow.
what it takes. But For the ISO, for what the homeowner within the city only, not the townships, what you really save on that, I'm looking at the insurance of that second pumper and the upkeep of that second pumper. It's not worth it in my books.
okay.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what that number it saved, you know, what 1 point saves the average homeowner in town on their property.
Never heard that part, but I suppose each independent homeowner has different ratings of everything, so that makes a difference there.
Okay.
In my previous position, I called different insurance companies to find out who uses ISO ratings, because that's some city similar as well, they can't afford the number of, and they have 3 very large buildings that would take a lot of water and a lot of, if there was a fire in it, because they look at that as well. So the granite companies over there were large, and 3 of the insurance companies don't even use the ISO rating. When they look at it, they look at whether or not there's a, first of all, fire hydrants, and whether or not you're within so many feet from the fire hall. So does the city have a fire department? Or are you, going 20 miles or 10 miles
Sure.
or 5 miles? So they
Okay.
don't go by the ISO. Those are 3 large insurance companies.
Okay. Well, I look at it this way, if you guys don't have just the manpower alone to run a second pumper, it's,
Well, I mean, in good intentions, we'd love to take it to every fire, but there's no
Yeah.
one to drive it, there's no one to, and you gotta have 6 guys to man a pumper,
7
7,
pump operator plus
right?
the attack team
Yeah,
plus
3 attack,
back
or
team.
2 attack teams.
okay.
So you can't justify having it, and it's just gonna sit there and, we use it sometimes on car accidents for traffic control, but we have enough other vehicles we can do it, just to get it out of the barn, so. But
Okay.
that's not running no pumps or anything, it's just driving the thing.
Well, I guess that makes sense to me, get rid of it. So, anybody have any questions, comments on that?
Do we have to-
Or we have to make a motion
Motion
on
on that
it,
at all,
but-
Cindy?
yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
we wanna do
I
a
think we want to inform the townships that we're doing this too. We still
Yeah.
have a say-so on it.
Yeah, so, I'll go ahead and make a motion to, approve the fire department to sell is it pumper 2?
Yep.
Is that what you call it? Pumper 2? And reduce the, number of pumpers down to 1. Troy, second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
On these new guys coming in, Chad, you got job descriptions so they know what?
It's in the bylaws,
You have a current one, or?
yep,
Okay,
well,
just so they know what they're getting into and stuff.
yep,
Yep.
they will receive that,
Okay.
and then, I don't know, Cindy thinks we should come to the meetings, every meeting, and give you an update on the fire department. Is that necessary, or can we do quarterly, or what do you want?
Well, with other cities, they, you know, all the department heads do report, to at every council meeting, you know, so if you look at other cities, you know, they'll have the fire chief and the rescue chief, if they have a department, or even ambulance, you know, they'll have them at the meeting. Now, I'm willing to, you know, strike a deal that, you know, maybe we just do this at a quarterly, you know, because I know you guys got other jobs and stuff, and you guys also do, you know, calls, and, you know, so you guys are already stretched pretty thin, but I'm willing to give it a try as a quarterly, and see where that leads us.
Okay.
I don't think it needs to be a chief all the time. It could be
No,
an
I
officer,
think designated officer from the
Right.
fire department,
wherever you feel.
yeah.
There's usually not too much to talk about, that's the only thing, so I just was.
Well,
if it's
if you
necessary to
think-
come every month, it's like,
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, you just had, you know, you just brought up two very good things, you know, employee hires and, you know, you know, the pumper.
right.
You know, so, you know, that actually made it worth it right there.
And when I spoke to the chief, I did let him know that it wouldn't have to just be him. But I think it's a good plan that the city, people who watch this get to see who these people are. And I think it's good that they see the chief or the rescue chief, or if they wanna send the assistant chiefs, they can do that, or the EMS director, whoever, that it doesn't just have to be, the fire chief, as he may have indicated, every month. But,
Well, it just gets to be a lot of meetings
yeah.
for,
Yeah.
so we got all the chiefs meetings and all that stuff to go to all the time, so. And then I guess if you want a rundown of the calls, we've had 10 calls, in the first quarter. A total of 10 calls. We had 3 mutual aids, one with Chain of Lakes and 2 with, Watkins.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I like it. All right. Anybody have any questions for Chad? Nope. All right.
No, thank you
Thanks,
for
Chad.
coming.
Yep.
Appreciate you. Appreciate it. All right, and on to rescue. Come on up, Scott. We promise we
Well,
don't
we came and
bite.
talked to you about putting people on, and we had time to think. And, we, decided that we weren't gonna hire just yet. And we are looking at our bylaws. We have 2 different sets. And we're gonna work on our bylaws, and then we are gonna have the people come in and talk to them and tell them what they'll, you know, what's all involved.
Okay.
And they switched the training to September for us,
Okay.
so.
'Cause
So
they want-
you possibly gonna bring people on early like Chad did to give them time to feel
Mhm.
things out, or?
We're gonna talk about that. We're trying to,
I think that's a good deal, give them a probation to start with, so you feel them out if they're gonna, if they like it, if they're gonna
Yeah.
respond and stuff like that.
You know, they might go to a couple of calls with you guys and, you know, and decide, well, yeah, this really isn't for me, and then you didn't have sunk all that training into them.
we do have 3 retiring this year,
Okay.
so.
And that, they've made that official now, or are they still
2
kinda,
of them are official, and one told me that he would after we get everyone trained, so,
okay,
that he would stay on till then. We do have 2 that are gonna have surgery, so they're gonna be out for at least 6 weeks.
okay.
When they come off of surgery, you get a doctor's report on
They
it?
have to have a doctor's slip before and after.
Okay. All right. So if you guys, you said you had 2 sets of bylaws, you guys kind of going through and reconciling those and
Well,
putting them,
there's one that says Relief Association, Rescue Squad Relief Association, and we do not have a relief association with rescue.
Yeah,
And then the other one is, ordinance 403, 404,
okay.
404. So, we will get that straightened out.
Okay.
Thank you.
But we need to know if we can hire, is that, because I think this was the meeting that we were gonna be at.
Yeah.
Oh,
we
yeah,
tentative-
that's right.
tentatively
Yep, that's
said
right. Yep,
Yes.
yep. Thanks for reminding us. Yeah.
I think at the last meeting, or at that meeting, we agreed to 4.
Yep, we agreed to hire 4. And, yeah, so,
So what brings that total up to then?
Well,
What would it bring
we are
your-
going to have 3 retiring.
Yep.
So that would
3
bring
more
us down to.
retiring?
3.
Without me, with me,
Without,
without me.
mhm.
Okay.
So
okay.
that'll bring us down to 15,
You're currently at 18, we are going to retire.
yes.
Okay, and so that brings you down, that'd bring you down to 15, and if you hire
Yes.
4 more, they'll bring you up to 19. And we were talking about before, trying to hit that, you know, if you guys hire, try to hit that 20,
Yeah.
A minimum of 16.
you know, to a 20, yeah.
When you get
So-
to, going up to 20 is when you got retirees coming in, you're building new people in.
Yeah.
It's kind of the overlapping.
I guess I do have kind of some questions and concerns. First off, I want to make it very clear. Rescue, fire, police, anything safety orientated, I'm going to look at it wholeheartedly and make the best decision I can. Because the last thing I want to do, anything with our residents, safety, period. I want the best trained people. I want to make sure we can get what you guys need. With that said, I kind of did some looking at some stuff, some numbers. And what I did was I went back, I did some comparisons from 2018, 17, 16. 16 was it was kind of an odd, I only had 3/4 of the information to go off of. What I'm concerned with is bringing more people on when we have people that are subpar. And when I did this data comparison, I don't know who these people are. I don't know anything specifically other than I know, you know, there's 19 members, went right down the line. And what I found was actually kind of interesting to me. So I broke it down in shifts compared with the OSHA standard. So 3 shifts, 8 to 4, 4 to midnight, midnight to 8 a.m. And it was actually very interesting to me to find out what the total calls were, you know, for the shifts, and the number of people that attended these. I averaged them out. It's about the best I could do. So with that said, I understand you can't have 6.79 people. It doesn't work. I'm just taking an average as a whole. What was shocking to me was if I stay with the same numbers, if I go right down the line, 1, 2, 3, member, 1, 2, 3, and I don't know who they are, I'm not trying to pick on anybody. I found 4 in particular that are subpar at best. And that's concerning to me because when I look at this, if I'm gonna add members, I gotta make sure the members we have are participating. And I don't know if there's something that says, hey, you gotta be there 1/3 of the calls or whatever. What was very interesting to me, as a whole, there was 4 of them that were very low on the totem pole. And I would like to see that addressed.
We did at the last meeting.
And what did we come up with?
I adjusted to the whole squad, that we needed, more participation. And we'll probably have to do it again at the next meeting because I will have 2 that are going to be going out for surgery.
Because I got
So,
4
we're
in
gonna have to
particular that have, the last 3 years, have pretty much stayed the same as far as participation levels?
It could be a couple that are going to retire.
Okay. What are you looking for as far as, you know, what do you want per call? Well, like, I know obviously you want as many people as you can.
Well, it depends on the different calls.
Sure,
Because if you have a CPR call, you're gonna want at least 8 or 9.
right.
It depends on the call that you have.
Because on average, I mean, we're staying the same. 18 was probably the least and that was that 6.79 on that first shift. 18, we averaged 7.5 per call people. So there's, with your 19 in place, you still had 4 that were subpar. Our numbers really have not changed. So I'm concerned with adding more. You know what I mean? Because we're adding more people, but yet, what are we doing with the 4 that were subpar? And you said you addressed that.
We did at the last meeting.
And what did you give them for a timeline to get it corrected, or
I
anything
just
like that?
addressed the whole crew.
Yeah, but you still gotta give some meat in the game. You gotta start showing up more, or whatever it's gonna be. And if you don't, this is what's gonna happen. You know, you can't just say, well, you gotta show up more. Next month, gotta show up more. You can't just say that. And you gotta have some meat in the game at the end, what's gonna happen if you don't show up more? So, if you can't,
And I think we talked about this before. I mean, there isn't don't have a rule or anything that you have to attend so many calls. Or certain criteria of how many calls you make, whether it's percentage or number of calls or whatnot. You guys don't have a rule like that, right? Not
30%, that's what it is.
30%.
We don't have anything on paper,
We
no.
don't have
That's
any.
And the shocking thing with that is if you actually look at that, there's a lot of them that are 25% or below. I was actually really surprised at it, and it was very concerning to me. Because when I look
I
at
think a
this,
lot of that is that you're averaging, and you may have a quarter where one person might be at 10%, but somehow in another quarter, they might be at 60%. Or
but
50%.
I averaged this for 3 years and it's the same 4.
Yeah,
So I mean, that to me.
I can see that,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying in general,
Because I can
across
look
the rest
back.
of the crews.
Oh, I can look back and it's pretty similar who is doing what. I mean, just by member, how I did it was member, I didn't wanna know names because I didn't wanna seem like I'm picking on somebody, because I'm not. I'm just trying to figure this out in the easiest possible way. You know, cause I started looking at it and I did go around to other departments. We'd be up there as far as numbers. We'd be a lot higher than other communities. And that to me is, you know, especially when I'm looking at continually, certain individuals are not, in my line of work, I can't promote that. Subpar. You know, I wanna see people there that are gonna respond, you know, at least a little higher percentage, and it's consistently the same. And that to me is, needed to be addressed before I would say, well, I'm okay with bringing 19 or whatever. You know, I guess that's where I'm coming from.
Well, I would be willing to take the chance of, like, we let you guys hire new people and you'd have fresh blood on there, which means they're, you know, I hate to use a cliche, they're gung ho. You know, they want, you know, they're at every, you know, they're trying to make every call, so that would bring your numbers.
But specifically, you were asking for daytime, correct? More so because that was where that was lacking?
Yeah, that's where it's going to be, yeah.
And these new applicants, is this kind of what they're going for?
Well, we have to bring them in and talk to them. I've got their applications, but we did not bring them in and talk to them yet.
Okay. And you guys usually do that, you know, you kinda like,
Yep.
hey, you know, we've got, you know, we're hiring so many people, this is how many people we kinda
Yep.
need to respond during certain periods of the day. Okay.
I can give you a percentage on that too. I wrote it down, and it's very similar. like I said, I'm just trying to make this the easiest, you know, and I'm not trying to pick on anybody, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just looking at subpar performance, and I can't justify bringing more people on to counteract subpar performance. That to me doesn't make sense. And I don't wanna I don't wanna put the safety of our residents at risk of that. I mean, that's not at all what I'm trying to do. It's just, I'm looking at it, our numbers, where we're at historically, 18, 17, 16, and you're pretty similar. You know, so to me, to add that many becomes an issue, especially when we got 4 that are subpar at best.
I think Pam has addressed the issue. I do agree with Dan that maybe they'll have to take a closer look at the other people and talk to them about it. I think they're starting to get a good handle on it.
Well, I addressed it to the group, and I was waiting to see what happened, and then I might have to do the individual, but right now, I just did it as a group.
That's a good start.
Yeah.
A base.
I don't think this is gonna get solved overnight, you know, whether you sit down and talk to them, you know, you guys put a little bit of meat on it, and, you know, put an actual rule, hard, fast rule in place and start cracking down. I don't think that's gonna solve things overnight. I'm more concerned about, we need to make sure that we have enough people on there. I mean, if we've, as a city in the past, we've approved 20 to be on there, I think we still need to give them that. With your suggestion, what you're saying is that, you know, you go take that back, we'll give you what you need, but, you know, we're gonna need to see in exchange, we're gonna need to see those, you know, responding calls go up. You know,
One thing with letting, before that you were saying subpar, letting them still stay subpar after 3 years, that can rub off on the other ones that are marginal, and they could fall into the subpar.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was
That's
thinking, that
true.
it'd be an exchange, you know,
Yeah.
we give that so that, you know, you guys can address, get your numbers back up, and then in exchange for getting those responding calls, you see that all the time in the public sector. You get one bad apple on a shift, a shift or a crew or somewhere in there, and they drag everybody down with them.
Yeah, remember, the city has an investment in training, and whatever else that costs us, insurance and all this stuff. So we got an investment in 17 members, or whatever we have right now, and there's 4 of them there or whatever that are subpar, and we got the same investment in them as we do the ones that are making, say, 50, 60, 70% of the calls. So it's actually those 3, 4, whatever it is costing the city money, and we're not getting, the residents are not getting their benefit out of it, or response out of it.
And I think 20 is a pretty high number compared to surrounding communities, what they're at for rescue.
But if you
Well,
look
you-
at, if you look at it, it's just gonna be 20 to start with, and you get 3 people retiring, so now you're back down to.
And I'm
you're
fine with
back down
that,
to
and I'm fine with that.
17.
I just don't wanna set it at 20, and we're not at 20.
Well, and
No,
it's,
You know, like the
no.
fire department's 25.
And it goes back to what we talked
No,
about before,
and
that,
that's just
kinda
what I'm looking for.
kinda keeping that range, low side would be 16, the highest, max would be 20, trying to keep it in between that
so
number.
the sweet spot would be 18.
Yes.
So 20 on the high side, 16 at the low side.
We know there's retirees coming up.
Yeah.
And then
You
with
know.
with 2 being out on medical leave too,
You can't figure that in, though.
You can't figure that in, and you cannot replace somebody who's on a leave, so you can't.
Oh, yeah, you
put
can't
that-
do
can't
that.
put
leave
that
stuff,
in
no.
discussion at all.
No, you
No,
talk about
that's-
retirees
I
or
know it's
people leave.
tough on a department like that, but you can't.
And I'm not trying to be mad. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to look at the overall. I gotta do it what I do for a daily job. And it's not easy. I mean, when I look at this stuff, it's like, I'm looking at it as a whole. And that's why I just said when you have subpar performers, to me, I can't bring it to that 20 level. I mean, to me, I just can't do it.
Can I comment on this?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of factors that go into that too, that you're, I think, missing. You know, when you're looking at your job, you're there, you know, and you can do all your formulas and stuff. A call comes in, you have no idea when. So there isn't that much jobs right in town, so people are traveling all over for jobs. So them 4 people might work out of town, you know, a good portion of the time, and let's say 5 calls came in that week and they were all between 6 AM and 5 PM, and nothing at night. You know, you can't hold them against them, that, you know, they're gonna drive all the way from St. Cloud to come to a rescue call. I mean, I lived a mile and a half when I was on rescue, and I couldn't even make a truck at nighttime. Because the trucks were gone already. By the time you got to the hall, they were gone. So these people that are coming to the hall at 2 o'clock in the morning for someone feeling sick, they get to the hall and they stand there because they're not going to drive the personal vehicle out to the call because there's already 5 guys there. So then they turn around and go back home. And so so after that happens 10 times in 3 months, what do you think they're gonna do? They'll be like, oh, I can't make the truck anyhow, so I'm just gonna stay home. You know, so there's a lot of variables to it that, yeah, if these calls all came in from 8 AM to 10 PM, you know, them numbers would probably look a lot better. Or from 5 o'clock PM to 6 o'clock in the morning, if all the calls came in then, everyone's around here.
That's actually interesting that you bring that up though, because there is, I could tell you, according to your call logs, when the times where they came in, it's roughly between 18, 17, and 16, and the numbers are very comparable. They're not off that much. So, I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying. And these numbers, I mean, that's what that's all I can go off of. That's the information I have. So that when you're saying that variable, I get that. And years back when you had, 16 on a department, you probably had half the people that did all the day shifts were business owners, and they were in town.
Right.
So, I mean, I get that, I do. But when I look back at these 4 members, it's across the board at 4.3% through the whole year. There's a lot
Over a
of,
3-year period.
oh, that was over, like, 1,
Okay.
you know, and then you go, the next one is,
If I can just interject a little bit in that, before we get too much into like an employee review, whether you know who it is or not, we don't wanna get into that, and that the rescue chief has said that has and she's outlined it, and you certainly want to do your due diligence, and we want that, the taxpayers want that, but I think she's outlined a plan, and your fire administrator can meet with her and just find out how she's doing with it, how she's feeling about it, and if there's more that needs to be done on that side, we certainly would want to hold, the chief can elect to have a closed meeting with you. So none of us would be in here, it would be a closed meeting so that she would have the opportunity to talk on a different level without getting real specific on names or things even then, because then the employee needs to be here as well if we're gonna get into names. But that way, because she's outlined a plan, so we can keep going back and forth, and I don't wanna downplay what you're saying at all.
Yeah,
Because I think you've done all right.
and I've been trying to sit there and try to walk that fine,
Yeah,
walk that fine line.
It is hard.
But I think it sounds like you got a plan. You're trying to address it. You know, you've done sat down with the squad and said, hey, we need to get our numbers up. If that doesn't, if you don't see improvements, you already said you'll speak to the individuals directly. Which at that point, I think is, for us on this side of the table, I think that's the only thing we can do at this point, is trust in our chiefs that, we've addressed our concern, and that you guys will take it, and you guys will, you guys will deal with it. On the part of, the hiring, I get where you're coming from. I mean, I'm a data guy too, looking at numbers, yeah, if you got, if you're got certain segments or certain calls or certain things where the numbers just aren't jiving or just aren't lining up, yeah, I appreciate what you're doing. You're bringing that to attention. But from a public safety standpoint, I do still think we do need to get up, get you guys up to that, get you guys hired more people so you guys can bring them in, you guys can get them their job descriptions, you can get them scheduled for their trainings, that way, we can get your numbers back up, or get your personnel count back up. So, I kind of let this go on a little bit longer than I was anticipating, because I was actually very interested in the data that you had.
I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
I'm
No.
not
No,
going in.
it's good that it's good that, that you dove into that, but, what I want to do now is just kind of keep the meeting going here, is, go ahead and, we originally agreed to 4. Do we have any objection with that, with the advent of an additional person retiring, bringing them up, allowing them to do 5?
Do you have that many applicants?
We have 3, but we were gonna talk about opening it up for,
Opening it up again?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So,
If they got 3 more retiring now, there'll be 4 for this year. We're letting them bring 4 on. They're back in line where they need to be.
so just keep it at the 4 for now?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
if you leave it at the 4 now, and if they do the like the internship, if you will, before they take the training, and one dumps off, then you can always hire
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
apply,
Yeah.
put it all for another one.
I'd be okay with that. So, all right, with that being
I think
said,
bringing them on at, through a trial period is the way to go before you train them. So
Is
that-
there, any problem with bringing them on before?
I
think as long as they're not touching patients, I mean, I guess
It'll
you guys would know
similar to
before.
fire, you won't, before you're trained, you can't enter, you can't.
Yeah, it's
you
what I was
just can't-
thinking, if
Yeah.
you guys model that off after what, what the fire department's doing with their new, what they do with their new hires, I would not have an issue with that at all.
So it's basically be a shadow, a ride along.
Yeah.
Shadow right
type of
along?
thing.
There's a lot of things they can do.
Runner.
Yep, runner,
Yeah.
learn where everything's at.
Yeah. So, all right,
You guys are doing a good job, I retired off there, and you guys are doing a good job, both chiefs and the officers and everything, but, we just gotta look at everything and make sure we got things going the right way and things like that. And we don't have people just hanging on there on fire to collect the relief, or on rescue just taking those spots, so this is something we have to look at, but keep up the good work. You guys are doing great, like you guys always been, so.
and I'll echo what Dan was saying there too, outside the fact I didn't retire from that, but, no, the 4.5 years, actually not 4.5 yet, but, the 4 years that I've been sitting in this chair here, I've been severely impressed with how the Eden Valley Fire and Rescue has been run. I'll say that all day long, and yeah, and sometimes we may come across a little hard, we may ask some questions that you guys might not be prepared for, or even have some weird requests, but at the end of the day, we have full trust in our fire and rescue department, and, I'll always be in your guys' corner, just so you guys know that. So, all right,
Thank you.
but we
Thank
do,
you.
before we close this out, we do need to make a motion on hiring 4 people.
I'll make a motion that we bring 4 people on the rescue.
All right, do I have a second?
I second it.
Jan with a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right,
Thank you. for
Thank you.
addressing that.
Thank you, guys.
Mhm.
yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah,
And I wasn't trying to, thank you.
yeah.
Have a good
Had to
night.
be done.
All right, give it a moment.
Yeah.
Yep, see you, Chad.
Yeah.
See you.
See you, Pam. All right, on to Cindy. You're up next.
I really didn't prepare a whole lot for
Oh,
today.
probably.
We're having the audit, so I figured that was enough on the financial side. But the audit went well, so that was a good deal. I was pleased after my meeting and theirs. So no, I just need the approval of the bills to be paid and those paid.
Okay. All right, and everybody had a chance to take a look at the bills?
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah, okay, all right.
I make a motion to pay the bills, accept the Keeling machine.
All right, I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
I'll make a motion to pay Thielen Machine.
I'll second.
And Troy with second. All in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
Okay. On to Ernie.
Give you the monthly report. Other than that, we got the Steel Toe Comedy Show coming up 14th or 13th of April. I think there's a few tickets left online, not many. Couple hard tickets left, I think I have. Other than that, it's pretty much a sold out show, I think. We took winter parking restrictions off. I think everybody's happy about that. I did have somebody talk to me on our parking restrictions is from Stearns Avenue to Rails Avenue on Main Street. I did have actually a couple people talk to me about because of the lack, and the reason we had the Main Street no parking overnight was because when it was full of businesses, the owners would get angry because you come in and you got people in the apartments wherever parked in their, obviously their retail spots, which made sense at the time. Well, since then, obviously, we lost some businesses on Main Street, so they're going, why can't we park on Main Street overnight? There's no businesses there anyway for the most part. I said, well, I mean, that's kind of where the ordinance is, and that's for the council to decide, not me. So, well, but there's still parking. There's still parking on the edge, whether it's a state highway or not. We have public parking on those streets during the day. You can park anywhere you want. We just don't allow it overnight. The reason we always did that was because of the businesses. We don't have a bunch of cars sitting in the business spots when people come, obviously, to use our business district. So just throwing it at you, if that's something you're thinking and you want to change, maybe talk about it, something you want to allow or you want to keep it as is. I said I'd bring it up to the council for Main Street parking.
How does that affect snow removal if we were to?
That doesn't change snow removal. Snow removal, anything over 3 inches, I gotta move anyway. Doesn't matter where you're parked in the city. And on in the winter parking restrictions from November 1 to April 1, you can't park in any street. That's the winter parking restrictions. So that wouldn't change. Only it changes once you hit that April 1st to November 1st. That part of Main Street is not, you can't park there overnight at all, period. So it wouldn't change the winter parking at all, Pat. I guess where the businesses are, the only one I would probably talk to, you have 24/7 and Lost and Found is the two we have on that side. Other than that, I mean, there's not really a lot left. So, the grocery, well, you guys are well aware of what's going on Main Street, but, so I said I'd bring it up to the council. I guess it doesn't make a difference to me either way. It kinda makes sense at this point. You can always change it back. If you got a bunch of Main Street businesses that show up, then maybe it's something you think about, or maybe leave it as is and say, the apartments are supposed to have designated off-street parking, that's part of the rules.
That's where my question was gonna go, just kind of playing devil's advocate here, is that, what's preventing them from using their actual parking that they're supposed to be using? Other than the fact that if they park out in Main Street out in front of their apartment building, they're 5 steps away from their front door instead of 15.
And they can still park there, they just can't park there overnight.
Yeah.
There's nothing saying they can't park there from, 7 AM to 2:30 AM. You can park there all you want, it's public parking. So I said I'd bring it up to the council, and I did.
It's worth thinking about. Think we need to make a decision on that tonight, but.
No, I just want to bring it to your attention, something you want to, think about, talk about later. Obviously, we'll leave it at this for now. We have some issues once in a while with it. I mean, they park out there you know, because of our coverage, I mean, sometimes you don't know that till the following day, you know, Jim knows it, because the guys come on early in the morning and say, hey, that car was parked there, well, you know.
I can shoot you a text message when I'm up pretty early.
Right, I get it. Yeah, please don't, by the way.
Yeah.
Do it later,
Later.
I try to sleep in
yeah.
the morning a little bit. So anyway, I said I'd bring it up, so council can talk about it, whatever, that's kinda where we're at.
No problem.
Other than that, I don't think I have anything.
All right. Anybody got anything for Ernie? No? All right. On to Jim.
We had the water board meeting between Watkins and us this last month, I guess it was. Water plant this year's gonna be doing some updates in the tune of $49,857. It's gonna be done in 2 phases. The board has elected to do phase 1 this year of 20,222, and the rest of it will be in phase 2 next year. We're redoing the PLCs that we had talked about
Okay.
before, and the radios, but we can do it in 2 phases according to what we've got here, and our water board has thought we should go that route. So leaving you know, that's what we're going to be doing. Starting this year, Preferred Controls out of Albany is the one who is gonna be handling the work. They've been very good to us since we put them on board. Mark and myself went yesterday up to Willow River and took the old generator back and picked up the newest one that we have. That's got 400 some odd hours on. Came out of Georgia, down there. We're gonna be putting it in tomorrow into the old fire hall, and soon after it'll be all wired in as they can get here. Sweeping's been started on the streets. We're not done yet, but get at it as we can here. But we got the main areas where the storm sewers are, so all that gravel isn't going down storms. And we still have frozen water lines in town. We had a total of 5 so far this year. 1st of April came, I thought, well, we'll check them. I kinda knew better, but I could get them back on the roster to make it right. They're still froze. It's pretty much a given. Ice out on the lake they'll be open. So, other than that, the ponds are gonna be very full this year, so it's gonna be hammered down on them when we can get spraying. So, we actually are filling pond number 4 right now, and to give us room in the rest of the ponds before we can start spraying. So it'll be a nip and tuck summer for that. Otherwise, I don't have anything else unless you got something for me.
Is there a plan on redoing the Hutchinson
Not at
street
this
up there?
time.
Boy, that was really tough one
They always ask for speed bumps. They got it.
oh boy, they did.
We put class 2, it's settled down. I need to put some more class 2. I haven't
Okay.
had time to get back up there. Just tomorrow morning, hopefully we can get there. See how it goes. But the frost really shifts that road around because there's so much water.
Yeah,
The springs are flowing steady up there. That's one that needs a hard look at. And
again,
dig deep and put a lot of fill and tarp back underneath it.
Tile.
There's tile in it. That's
Yeah.
why those slots are through there. And that's draining 24/7 all the time down to the creek. That helped, but needs more.
and then, I brought the issue up to Mark that, down there on Hillside Drive, there's a sewer intake
Yes.
that's caving in.
Yep.
Have you guys taken
That's
a
storm
look?
sewer. That'll be dug out.
Okay,
We haven't had time to,
I'm afraid the kids are gonna
correct.
get a
Yep.
leg in there or something, and then we're
Yep.
not gonna have a problem.
Kids gotta know. There's something over there.
Yeah, okay,
They'll
thank
figure it
you.
out.
Yeah, that's on the board to get at.
Good, thanks.
Did you get your new piece of equipment yet?
Skid steer?
Yeah.
Yes, we got that a month ago. Brought that, that's different.
Hopefully a good different.
It's a challenge, from foot control to all hand is, yeah, it's working well though. Can't
Alright.
teach old dogs new tricks, something like that.
All right. Anybody else got anything for Jim?
Nope.
All right, thank you, Jim. And I don't have anything. Anybody in council? No?
Yeah. Pick up your dog crap. That's about as easy as I could put it. It's getting ridiculous, to be honest with you. I've had numerous people walk around, and what really gets me going up here by the veterans, dogs again. People gotta take care of them. If you can't take care of them, get rid of them. I don't know how else to put it. I know we had a lot of snow, a lot of things. You got a yard, pick it up. You take your dog for a walk, pick it up. It's not that hard. I'd like to seriously look at maybe doing some changes. It's an embarrassment when you have people that walk and come around your neighborhood and that's a comment that's made. So I'm really disappointed in the residents that are doing that because it is disrespectful in so many levels, especially by our Veterans Park up here. That is one thing that will not sit with me now or ever. To me, it's just a disgrace, to be honest with you. And it needs to change. People really need to start paying attention or get rid of your animal. But I don't know, we gotta look at something different. How to approach this, you know, I don't know what the good way is, but I don't know. People should be ashamed of themselves. That's who's doing it. There's a few, and they know who they are. But that's my gripe.
All right. I got that wrote down, by the way.
Thank you.
One thing I did forget, the compost site is open as of today. We started today.
Can you remind people what size stuff you
It's
take?
all on the,
It's all on the board out there?
what, you know, that goes.
It's like 3-inch and smaller, right?
Yeah, 6 inches.
6 inches smaller out there.
And what are the days that it's open again?
It's all on the board, I'm sorry, I don't know it offhand.
Oh, you go down there and read
Thursday,
it.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
Okay.
and unless made appointment, we can open, we have, always have.
Okay. All right, and let's see, upcoming meetings. April 10th is a council workshop and at 7 PM. And then our next council meeting, please note that we did change it. We moved out a week to May 8th. We are gonna have a public hearing at the beginning of that meeting of that month for some land annexation. Did the public notice, or notice went out? Okay, perfect. All right, and with that being said, I will go ahead and make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Troy, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.